Welcome to the Sorta Healthy podcast, Sorta Healthy show. I'm Alexis. You know Jeff. Today we are talking about things we did wrong when we started out on our personal trainer journeys.
Hopefully, you don't make the same mistakes that we did if you're early into your career, even if you're not that early into your career, because some of these are pretty long-term things.
I would say the number one thing that I did wrong, or maybe I have more regrets about than I did wrong, is that I have only ever worked at our studio as a personal trainer.
That's half true though, right? Because you did work as a CrossFit coach.
Yeah, and it's still coaching, and honestly, I didn't do that much of it. So I was very new as a CrossFit coach too. I didn't spend years there.
You got that cheat code though, because you found me early on into your career. I'd already been doing it for at least 5 years at that point in time.
Well, yeah.
And I gave you that hookup, right?
Yeah, you said, I'm starting a gym. Do you want to work here? And I said, sure.
I could tell you were smart. You were a quick learner and you did have some coaching experience, just not traditional personal training experience. So you got your NASM certification. The rest was history. You took to it pretty quick.
The positive of that is that I feel like I am pretty good at what I do, but I only know our personal training studio. I don't know other studios. I don't know gyms.
Yeah, I definitely think you do get useful hands-on experience from watching other people do it in a variety of different environments. I mean, that's a regret, but worked out for you in the end. And like I said, you did have some coaching experience coming in. I wish starting out I was super proficient with all of the compound lifts, when in reality, I was probably so-so for one or two of them, deadlift to overhead press. When you're first coaching clients, one of the best things you can do is just be really proficient and skilled with those lifts that you're going to be coaching clients in. Yeah, I could have been better and practice more, and I think that would have helped me a lot in those first 3 to 6 months.
Wait, so you didn't know how to deadlift?
That's not what I said. I did know how to deadlift. I had deadlifted before. I had overhead pressed before, but I hadn't done them in like a traditional periodized workout plan, right? I'd kind of just messed around with them a little bit and done them here and there. There were just certain lifts that I wasn't as skilled in as I probably could have been or should have been coming into coaching other people. So make sure you master the basics first. I think that is one of the best things you can do early on.
Yeah, you need to know the basics before you tell other people what to do. The next one I feel like is something that I'm kind of still working on, but it's that I didn't have any boundaries as a new personal trainer. None at all. People would, I want this time. I'd be like, okay, late on payment or whatever, okay. Just not being hard on people or hard enough on people in terms of what I needed, again, in terms of boundaries, cancellations, money, timing, schedule, all that stuff.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot better about that over the years. But if I'm being honest with you,
I said I'm still working on it.
Yeah, still a work in progress. So people text you at 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night?
No, I don't respond anymore. Not anymore.
I'm calling you out on the podcast.
People feel like they can text you at 8 o'clock at night and you're going to respond, right? Then they're going to do it. And it's not in a malicious way. It's just in a, oh, she's up, I can, text her now. Or, oh, if I cancel at this time, it'll be okay. So I wish that I had set those boundaries earlier.
Yeah, clients don't mean anything by it. Typically, they're just I'm just going to text them and they'll get to it when they get to it. But as the professional, you feel kind of obligated to help them out as soon as you can. Both gotten better with charging people who cancel late. So I think in terms of that boundary, we're a lot better than we used to be. We used to just let people kind of walk all over us in regards to that.
There would be days where people would be like, I want this time, right? And I would have this big gap. It didn't bother me, but in hindsight, right, I feel like I should have encouraged people to been more tight together. Or in the very, very beginning, we didn't even have any set times as far as the calendar went. People were at 8:30 and 10:45, and it just kind of didn't match up. Versus once we went to a different schedule, we started doing everything on the 45-minute or on the 15 of the hour. But we used to have people kind of all over the place, just depending on when they wanted to come in.
The next thing I did wrong was I thought my degree and other certifications would make me a better trainer. They kind of did, but also didn't. I got into personal training when I was about 3/4 of the way done with a degree in exercise science. And for sure, there were some things that I did take away from that degree. But I think initially I thought, cool, I basically have a degree in exercise science. I'm going to be this awesome trainer coming in. I'm really going to know what I'm doing. And then it turns out that that degree really didn't help me that much on the job at all. The actual coaching aspect of it, I had to basically just learn that pretty much entirely on the job. That was true of a few other certifications that I got early on too. I got a bunch of random ones. I got like a yoga certification, I got a kettlebell certification, I got a whole bunch of different random ones. I don't know that that's a huge mistake I made, but it was definitely a wake-up call.
My next one is that I didn't have enough anatomy knowledge and exercise correction knowledge, especially going in to being a personal trainer. I feel like it took me a really long time to get decent at it. Even still now, that is not 100% my strong suit. While I had a good grasp on the social and like coaching side, I didn't have a big enough grasp on the actual coaching side. I worked with a bunch of trainers, but honestly, they didn't really know what they were doing either. And I worked on my own coaching myself. So I feel like I just kind of went through a lot of the motions without actually learning how to properly fix form, correct things, adjust things, etc.
I mean, it's one of those things where you just need to know the major muscle groups and what they do, and you do know that.
Yeah, I know that. But especially starting out, I think I was like not comfortable enough with it and or didn't know enough to actually correct things. Excuse me, correct things the right way.
Okay, so my next one is I waited too long to go off on my own, to do my own thing as a personal trainer, and I accepted mediocre pay for a little bit too long. I didn't go off on my own until probably, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 years into it. And I could have gone off and done my own thing probably about a year, maybe 2 years in. I just accepted mediocre, pretty bad pay for a while at a few different places. And I think it's just because I wasn't that confident initially. It took me a little while to build up that confidence. And then eventually I did go off on my own. I think also back then it was a little bit tougher to kind of go off on your own. There wasn't as many resources. I just didn't know how to do it, I guess.
I would say you would have felt comfortable going off on your own, like right off the bat?
Not right off the bat, but a year or two in. It just took me a little while to build up the confidence to pull the trigger, I would say.
Did you want to go off on your own to make more money, or did you want to go off on your own because you wanted to have your own business?
It was both. I mean, the money was definitely a thing. I don't know. I think back then, I want to say I was getting paid like $17, $18 an hour to train clients. And keep in mind, this is like 13 years ago.
So that's actually not that bad.
That's probably the equivalent to like low 20s now, but still, like I worked for that amount of pay training clients for longer than I should have done. Get that experience over that first year, 2 years at the most, and then find someone who is going to pay you what you're worth. I should have found someone that was going to pay me what I was worth, or just gone off on my own a little bit sooner than I did. Could have made more money.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. And I would have enjoyed myself more because personally, I like working for myself and kind of doing my own thing. So it's not just the money, it's also my enjoyment of the job.
This next one is different than the boundaries one, but similar in a vein. I was way too nice to people. And I feel like I didn't hone in enough on things like nutrition or consistency. I feel like had I been, I don't want to say meaner to people, but like maybe not quite as gentle and endearing, people would have been a little more on top of their stuff and seen better or faster results. And again, I'm not saying that they didn't. I'm just saying that sometimes I was a little too lenient when it came to stuff like food or nights out or, you know, getting walks in or extra exercise and stuff. That's something that I wish I had done better and something that I continue to work on because I feel like our whole thing is moderation, and that's my personal belief when it comes to nutrition, and I want people to have that. And so sometimes I think I get a little too nice to people on that, like, yeah, you can have ice cream sometimes, but like you also have to rein it in, you know? So I think I've gotten a lot better in actually telling people what they need to do.
Our studio is pretty interesting because clients work with multiple trainers and it actually works out really well. We'll kind of break that down more in future episodes. But anyways, I feel like a lot of times, especially early on when we were training the same client, you were the good cop and I was the bad cop. You know, they're out partying on the weekend and you're like, oh, that's okay. You can have your ice cream and your
As
whatever.
long as you get back to it. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you're trying to lose weight. You shouldn't eat the ice cream, or you should have a very small amount. Now, in fairness, you've gotten a lot better.
I've gotten a lot better. Yeah.
But in the early days, I was just like, dude, this person is paying us a lot of money to help them lose weight. You do need to put your foot down.
I think part of it is that when I was going through my own weight loss journey, my coaches were very mean. And so that very much turned me off. While I accomplished what I set out to accomplish, it really wasn't them being mean to me. It was me just being dedicated to it. And I think their attitudes in a lot of ways turned me off of the whole thing. Like they would yell and they would be rude. And I just did not like that. And I didn't want to emulate that in my own coaching. So I think that is where a lot of that came from. But I've realized that there is a nice happy medium there. And it just took me a while to get there.
So you almost overcorrected just a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. You do need to be fairly blunt. And I think it's better to be a little bit too nice than a little too blunt, as in like, sure, people need to enjoy their lives and they need to enjoy training with you and they have to enjoy the process at least somewhat. However, if someone's coming in and they're trying to lose weight and they're just trashing themselves every single weekend,
they need a wake-up call.
Yeah, with beer and pizza and just way too many calories, you need to make them aware that that is going to prevent them from losing weight. And you need to be very blunt about it. You need to say, nope, you can't do that. This is what you should be doing instead of that. So my next one is not necessarily something I did wrong, but I guess it's a little bit of a regret. Never tried working at a high-end gym like Equinox or Lifetime, especially with Equinox. I've talked to a bunch of trainers who've worked there. I think that's a pretty good opportunity early on into your career. I definitely think some of the coaching training that they take you through is helpful. I think that just would have been a cool experience. Would have learned some new tricks, would have benefited from some of the courses that they offer to their in-house trainers. So again, not necessarily something I did wrong, but a little bit of a regret.
I'll play devil's advocate for a minute here.
Okay, yeah.
You don't live anywhere near any high-end gyms, which is probably partially why you never worked there.
They're not that far.
They're like an hour each way plus.
Listen, dude, I could have moved down there.
You could have. I
could have moved closer.
You
Back
could
in the
have.
day when I was in my early 20s, I had nothing tying
I
me to this
also
area.
feel like I'm also going to, again, play devil's advocate here. I feel like gyms like Equinox, Lifetime, like higher end gyms weren't as much a thing until recently. Like they existed, but they weren't as like luxurious and Instagrammable and all that stuff. That's more of a new thing of the last probably 5-6 years, maybe more than 5.
I think that's half true. I mean, Equinox has been around for a long time. Lifetime too. We had an Equinox in our area for the last 20 years, but again, it's pretty far. It's like 45 minutes to an hour. So that is partially why I never even applied there early on as a trainer. But, you know, when I was early into my career, I had nothing holding me to the area that I live in now. I could have moved closer and I could have applied, and I probably should have, or I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It worked out fine for me. But I do think if you live close to an Equinox or a Lifetime or a different high-end gym that I'm not thinking about, it might just be a cool opportunity to experience early on in your career, because if you stick with this long enough, most likely you are going to go off on your own eventually. So I think it's good to have some of that experience early on.
One of my regrets, and maybe, I don't know, I feel like this is kind of a thing, is that I didn't do enough hands-on continuing education. When I took my CrossFit certification, it was 3 days of hands-on coaching. You went in, you worked with people, you did workouts together, and then everyone coached each other, learning how to cue, squats, deadlifts, presses, etc. I would have loved to do something like that in regards to personal training, but I feel like it didn't really exist. So I guess that's partially why.
It's kind of funny that people love to hate on CrossFit, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty to hate on there. They do a lot of things either wrong or just weird or crazy. I don't know. There's plenty to dislike. But that being said, I feel like you learned way more from that CrossFit certification experience than you did from just about any personal training certification you've done.
I don't know if they do it this way anymore, especially like in a post-COVID world, but it was 3 days of hands-on all day. You went and stayed there, or 2 days, whatever. And then you took your test in person, and they taught you how to coach through a squat, coach through a press. I don't remember what other movements there were that they taught you through, but they took you through everything. It took you through programming. Like they sat with a whiteboard and went over stuff. It was very, very, very good.
Yeah, I think there definitely should be more of that in just regular personal training.
I don't know why no one else really does that.
It's a money thing where it's just, it costs a lot of time and money to host an event, and you have to pay someone to go do that. And it's just a lot easier to make an online course and just sell the online course. That doesn't mean that in-person events and courses aren't better in a lot of ways. They certainly are. You certainly can learn certain things, squat form, deadlift form, overhead press, etc., better in person, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. There should be more opportunities like that at every stage of your career.
And I'll say too, we went to like Idea World and a few other conferences, but I feel like I wish we went to more conferences because there are, again, not that many of them, but there are some. So I wish we had done more of that.
We still can.
Well, I feel like now we are, but back in the day when we were new, I wish we had gone to more just for networking, learning different things, fun, all that stuff.
My next one is I never managed someone else's facility, but I was close to doing it. About 3-4 years into working at a high-end local studio, I had the opportunity to step up and be the head. Well, I guess I kind of was the head trainer already. It was more like a manager position. Yeah, if I had really wanted it, I could have managed that facility. In my opinion, the pay was not as good as I think it should have been. So that was one reason why I didn't do it. But I was also already finding a fair amount of success coaching clients on my own too. And I probably would have had to given some of that up. I would have had to really focus on managing this facility. So the stars didn't align at the right time for me. That being said, I wish I had an opportunity like that where I was managing someone else's facility or a gym or something like that for a little while. Because again, I feel like you learn certain things by running someone else's business. Maybe they're going to teach you some things along the way, assuming that there's an owner still in charge of you, the manager. I don't know. I just think it would have been a cool opportunity. And some days I wish I had taken that opportunity or just had a similar opportunity somewhere else.
Then you probably wouldn't own Commence Fitness.
That's the thing. So for me, it really did come down to, do I fully go off on my own and do my own thing? I was already having a fair amount of success with that. Or do I take this managerial position somewhere else, which the pay was just kind of so-so, and sure, it was more stable. I would have benefits and this and that. But I knew that if I took that job, I would regret it because it would hurt my chances at running my own business. So I made the right call for me at that time. I just wish I had been given that opportunity like a year or two earlier, because then I would have done it. You don't have any more, but I have an honorable mention here for me. I never actually hired a personal trainer to train me as a client. And this is something that I think a lot of new trainers should at least consider doing. I get it. Personal training isn't cheap. And when you're first starting out, you're probably broke and you're thinking, there's no way in hell I could afford a personal trainer. However, some of the best trainers I've known hired trainers before they got into training clients themselves. You learn social skills, you learn technical skills, and you just get to see it from the other side. And I think it's a good opportunity. So consider doing that. It's not something I regret a ton, but if I could go back and do it over again, I probably would find the best local trainer near me, and I would hire that person for at least a few months before going off and doing it on my own.
I want my own trainer now.
I get it. Yeah. The busier we get with random projects and stuff like that, the more I understand.
I understand why people have them.
The more I understand why people need us. I
do.
I get it now.
I get it.
You know, you're working all day on your computer, and the last thing you want to do is go do that workout. You kind of need someone waiting there for you with that appointment time, with that workout ready to go. That's what we do. That is the biggest value that we provide, at least it is in my opinion. That's why people keep coming back. No matter how good you are at coaching a squat, no matter how cheery your personality is, never forget that accountability is the thing that's going to keep you employed, and it's the thing that's going to keep them coming back.
truth. Thank you for listening or watching us on either YouTube or one of the podcast networks. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, review the podcast, whatever it is, because it really does help us out. So we appreciate you. Thank you for listening and watching. And until next time, stay sorta healthy.
Stay sort of healthy.